Welcome to Local Matters. Today we begin with Town of Plymouth Select Board Chairman Ken Tavares, who visited with Julie via Zoom to talk about one of the ways our community is honoring Plymouthians we've lost due to the coronavirus. Julie?
So Ken Tavares, the chair of the Select Board in the Town of Plymouth, joins me today. Ken, welcome. It is the end of October, and you're going to have a wonderful tribute to the people who have passed away due to COVID-19 put in front of the town hall, and it's to do with chairs. If you could talk about how this came about and what you're going to be doing.
Yes, thank you, Julie, for the opportunity to explain the memorial that's going to be up in a few days. Dr. Barry Potvin and I were having a discussion last week talking about his presentation before the Board of Selectmen, and he said one of the things that he would like to see the town do is to memorialize those that have passed away since March due to the virus. He had read an article, as I had done, in the Boston Globe, mentioning that the city of Lawrence was doing this chair memorial, and also it had started in Washington, D.C., where there were 20,000 chairs representing, at the time it went up, 10 people per chair that had lost their lives. And it gives us an opportunity to pay tribute to these folks that otherwise would probably be with us. And in Plymouth, we thought it was important because it's Thanksgiving season that's starting this weekend. And there are going to be people missing from the Plymouth Thanksgiving table. And this gives us, again, the opportunity to grieve with the families and show that we care about them and suffer with them with the loss of their loved ones that won't be there this year.
Right. Thank you for explaining that. Now, where is it going to be and how is it going to be set up and where are you getting the chairs from?
It's going to be right on the front lawn of Town Hall. And the chairs were generously donated to us by Holtec. Patrick O'Brien from Holtec was talking to us prior to a meeting that we had with the company, and he mentioned that they were giving equipment away. And I asked him if he had any chairs, and he said, by the way, I do. He has more chairs than I want to see certainly set up on the lawn. But it's an opportunity, for us to point out to the community what's happening, and part of the process of loss that we do not necessarily see on a day-to-day basis.
Right, and we need to be reminded that those chairs are empty now. Those will be families that grieve forever because they've lost someone to COVID-19. Now, when people pass by this wonderful tribute that you're setting up, is there going to be any message there or any call to action, or is it just the chairs and people just look at those chairs?
There will be a sign explaining the meaning of and significance of each of the chairs, and certainly we hope that people will then flash back to what we have been asking folks in our community to do, and that is to wash your hands, keep distance, wear a mask. This will all be tied in together. And as of yesterday, we had more deaths in the community, and there will be, as of today, 82 chairs that would be placed if the numbers stay the same through the week. Wow,
82 Plymouth residents. That's a lot. That's a lot. Now, you talked about grieving. Grieving oftentimes leads people to all kinds of different emotions, and some people are angry, and some people are very, very sad, and some people are numb. Can you speak to how we need as a community to help each other and lift each other up and talk to each other and talk each other through this?
Well, I think that the loss of a loved one is difficult. And in our family, we've lost, aunts, uncles, parents, grandparents, and there's forever a hole. But you realize that you have to go on. Life continues, and that you want to remember these folks. But we all do it in different ways, but I think what's helpful is to know that you're not alone while this is happening, and unfortunately, so many people have died without getting the recognition they need for a life that was well lived on Earth, and this gives us that opportunity.
Right. Absolutely. And can you just end this conversation with some hopeful tones about how we need to change the way we look at each other and address each other and talk to each other and support each other through these next few months until we get to the end of this or to the other side of this?
Well, I think there's a lot that we can do to help each other out. There are so many dissenting views. No matter what side of a request is made, someone says, "Nope, that's something I can't do. I don't want to do, and you can't make me do it." There are other people on the other side of saying, "You must do it. You need to do it." And I think we need to be respectful of one another, knowing that all of us want this to be over. If we had our wishes, and I think we were all somewhat naive in March when this started, thinking that maybe by summer this was going to be done. We didn't have any idea of how far spread this is, and of course now we're entering a second time around, which makes it even more difficult because we know what to expect. But I think the tone of our voice, presenting our dissenting views, could be done in a much calmer way. And we need to look at ourselves and basically go back to the old lesson. I'm going to treat you the way I want to be treated. And I think if we do that and be kinder to each other, we will get through it. Because we know that this is going to pass. And we will prevail in the end, but it's going to take a lot of work on the parts of many of us.
That's right. It'll take work, and it takes courage, it takes kindness, and it takes patience. Thank you so much for that. Did you want to end with a couple lines from that beautiful poem that you read a long time ago?
Oh, yes. Kitty O'Mara, her words, I want to take just one sentence that she had in her words because they certainly apply to this memorial that we're going to be putting up by the end of the week. And that is, and this is quoted from Kitty, "And the people healed in the absence of people living together in ignorant, dangerous, mindless, and heartless ways, the earth began to heal. And when the danger passed and the people joined together, they grieved their losses and made new choices and dreamed new images and created new ways to live and heal the earth fully as they had been healed."
Wow. Thank you, Ken.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And we all look forward to seeing the Chair Memorial. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for the opportunity to explain it. Best wishes to you also. Thank you.
Elizabeth, back to you.
Thank you, Julie, and thank you, Ken. As we go forward in hope for a time free of COVID-19, we will continue to honor the memories of those we've lost and remember the families affected by this virus. Live music is slowly coming back, but if you're not quite ready to venture out, the Plymouth Public Library has got you covered. On November 4th, jazz pianist Stephan Page takes the virtual stage with a live performance via Zoom. Grab a drink, get cozy as Stephan serenades you through the night. The event is open to all, but registration is a must. To register, visit the library's website. If you'd like your Halloween morning to be more peaceful than spooky, join instructor Bailey Miles for Halloween Yoga Flow. Beginning at 10 a.m., this 1-hour session on the lawn of the Davis Douglas Farm in Plymouth will refresh your spirit and reset your mind. This socially distant event is limited to 10 yoginis and registration is required. Visit wildlandstrust.org for more details. Discover the artist inside of you with a new class from the Duxbury Senior Center. Inside the Artist Studio, art exploration, paint, collage, and doodles. Join artist Mandy Fariello for this 6-week course, where you'll work with mixed media, line drawing, create your own color wheel, and learn about the art of making mud. Classes are on Friday mornings at 10 a.m. starting November 6th and ending December 18th. To register, visit the Senior Center's website. It's 1920s India, and a wealthy Muslim mill owner has died. He leaves behind 3 widows and 1 very suspicious will. Perveen Mystery is Bombay's only female lawyer, and her sleuthing reveals not just mystery, but murder. That's the premise of the Pembroke Public Library Book Club selection, The Widows of Malabar Hill, by Sujata Massey. While you wait for the votes to come in, join the virtual discussion of this historical mystery on November 3rd from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. This is book 1 of a 3-part series featuring a character inspired by the real-life Cornelia Sarabji, India's first female lawyer, and the first woman to study law at Oxford University. To register, visit the Pembroke Public Library's website. South Shore musician and artist Brian Huntress sat down with the local scene to give us his perspective on life during a pandemic and how it's changed him.
I think it first hit me in the very beginning, and for probably like too long, I didn't at all take it seriously. I was in a Walmart and I wasn't wearing a mask, and like half the people there were and other people weren't. And I was among the few there that were very like afraid and like, oh my God, I really should have worn a mask. And it really was it didn't feel good. It just felt really weird and dystopian, but that was in like mid-March. I think I got the picture pretty quickly after that. Despite not having any idea what was going to happen, I started to follow suit with what, normal safety precautions at this point, but before COVID, I was working on literally any odd job project or anything I could possibly do all day, 7 days a week, too late at night. And I thought that that was what it took or what I would have to do in order to be happy or to get my work done. But in staying home, I kind of had to reconcile with a lot of really unhealthy views and ideas I had about work and about money and about the way I thought of myself and my value as determined by what I can produce and value I can produce, which was bad. That wasn't a good way to think, obviously. But it took me a while to learn that, because I was among the people in the beginning that was trying really hard to almost like monetize my quarantine or like utilize every waking hour. And it kind of got to a point where like a month in, I just started to almost like psychologically burn out. And with watching a lot of documentaries and thinking more abstractly and more critically about my role in the world, I guess, I started making art because of art, instead of making it because of money. My work life changed for the better. Who I am right now, I make art and I make music, and that is what I do, but I have had a lot of self-declared identities over the years. I used to work in addiction treatment. I used to do like random public speaking about recovery. I'm 24 years old. I grew up in Massachusetts. I've never lived anywhere else, and I make art and I make music. My social life is constructed by music, really, and through shows and stuff, where the only people I'm around are other musicians and people going to shows and people making music. I got pulled directly out of it and put into quarantine, and like I said, I thought that was really terrible in the beginning, but that ended up being a really positive thing too, because I kind of realized that a majority of the relationships that I had were negative and were transactional, but they're not emotionally fulfilling. My life used to have a random occurrence factor where I was constantly around people and a revolving door of strangers and acquaintances that is now gone. So I have to invest more in actually having meaningful relationships at this point, which is harder and requires muscles that I have not exercised in a long time. It's kind of like being a kid and not having friends, and like the idea of how do I have friends, And pretty much all of my goals, my like more concrete, real goals, were rooted in events and public things and stuff like that. So I'm not heartbroken about it, but a lot of those plans are not possible anymore and would be unwise to invest in at this point. I'll be very quick to invest in other people and in community things and to try to put in a lot of effort into public things, but I think it takes a lot to actually want to invest in yourself and in your own future. I guess I'm hesitant to try to find a silver lining because it's horrible that so many people have suffered, but I think that it's like the universe just gave me this like brutal like timeout, like, you know what I mean, where like kind of forced me to take a seat and to step back and have a lot of perspective. I think I got to see myself in a lot of ways that I hadn't before and see everybody else in a lot of ways I hadn't before. Overall, net positive. The people at our level and people like mutual aid and community and like, you know, neighbors are really important. And I think we're all a lot more powerful than we think we are. And we rely on gigantic, huge institutions to try to do these things for us. And I think sadly throughout all this, we've found in a lot of ways that they don't come through. I think people took care of each other and I think that's really beautiful. Maybe we need to do more of that, but at the end of the day, when you're involved in like local music and local art, the local part should be the important thing, like the people in the community and, you know, people's lives and feelings. And that's the thing too, is that that's never been something that I consciously decided to do or decided not to do. It's just something I never thought about or had to think about because I didn't really imagine a world where social anything wasn't allowed or wasn't like safe really. So I'm just excited to care more.
Thank you, Brian, for sharing your story. The holiday season is upon us. If we can't gather together the way we want to, we can still find unique gifts for the people we love. If you're ready to start your shopping, head to the Pembroke Fall Craft Fair on October 31st at the Pembroke Assembly of God. From 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., browse handcrafted gifts that are made from the heart. It's a great way to get into the holiday spirit and help your community by shopping local. For more information, visit the church's Facebook page. Are you looking for a kid-friendly Halloween event that is focused more on fun than fright? Channel Homestead in Hanson invites you to Halloween Family Farm Day on October 31st. Bring some snacks to feed the farm animals, which include rabbits, chickens, Nigerian dwarf goats, blue Swedish ducks, horses, and turkeys. There will also be unicorn pony rides available. The fun starts at 11 a.m. Costumes are encouraged, but not required. Visit the farm's Facebook page to reserve your spot. Holistic nutritional consultant Jen Matney is back, and this time she's covering 3 easy modifications you can make to your diet to get on the right track to healthy eating.
Hello and welcome back to Food Positive, where we explore all different nutrition topics so that we can take a preventative look at our health and start using food as medicine. Now, here on Food Positive, we like to simplify matters as much as we possibly can, and nutrition is one of those sticky, complicated, and confusing categories to really pin down. For example, I get questions all the time. People say, you know, Jen, you know where I need to be going. You know what I need to be doing in order to live a healthier life. Give it to me straight in a couple of sentences, make it really simple, and let me know what I should be doing. People ask, should I be vegan or should I live a paleo lifestyle? Should I be eating 5 or 6 meals, small meals a day, or should I fast for some part of the day? And one constant question I get is, will I even lose weight if I eat fewer calories? So I know nutrition can be incredibly confusing for some people, and I know it can feel really overwhelming. So today, we're gonna try to simplify matters using a nutritional framework by Dr. Peter Attia. Now, Dr. Attia created this simplified nutritional understanding, and he tailors it based on what we understand about eating. There are 3 levers, and they include what we eat, how much we eat, and when we eat. And in order to make different positive or preventative health changes in our diets, we'll pull those levers as needed. So the first lever is what we eat, or what we choose not to eat. And I like to call this dietary choice. Some other nutrition experts might refer to it as dietary restriction. And dietary choice means that, some of us as individuals have different digestive systems. We have different needs. And so there are some whole foods that we can struggle to properly digest. And then you add in a whole category of processed food-like substances that everyone has difficulty digesting. It can clog up our systems. It can create inflammation in our bodies. And so when we look at this first lever to pull, what to eat, we're focusing on finding those foods that are health preventative for us, that are food positive for us, and choosing to eat those foods on a regular basis. So that's that first lever. The next lever involves how much we eat or choose not to eat. I like to call this calorie choice. Again, in the nutrition field, often it's referred to as calorie restriction or caloric restriction. And you might be familiar with that term. We know throughout the year there are times of heavy eating or less eating. For instance, the holidays are right around the corner, and most of us get together with family and friends. We might be set up in front of a table full of delicious foods. After the dinner or the afternoon lunch, we might be full to the brim. You might not even be able to think about taking another bite or moving. You might feel sluggish or bloated or slow to react or move. And this is often what happens in our bodies when we overeat. So overeating can cause this sluggishness. It can kind of wear down our metabolic systems and create inflammation in our bodies. So pulling this lever means that we're choosing to focus on our caloric choices. Instead of overeating on a regular basis, we might focus on eating until we're about 80% full, which is what scientific studies usually show offers a preventative health benefit. So pulling that lever, we are focused on eating until we're about 80% full. The last lever, or the third lever, involves when to eat or when we choose not to eat. I like to call it time choice. Often it's referred to as time restriction. It can also be referred to as fasting or intermittent fasting. And hold your horses, hold your horses. I do want to kind of normalize this because I think I might be losing some of you out there. So fasting can be a really overwhelming thought for some people. But often it's relatively common. For instance, when we eat dinner, we often fast until after that meal, until breakfast time. And we're usually asleep, but when we eat breakfast, the term itself, breakfast, means to break the fast that we were engaging in while sleeping. And often as you go about your day, you might be fasting for small periods of the day in between meal times. In fact, if you are a religious or if you are a spiritual person, you might regularly engage in fasts or intermittent fasting throughout the year based on your spirituality. So fasting is actually an incredibly common activity for humans to engage in, especially if you look at the history of human food consumption. So fasting, this last lever, we're talking about when to eat. So instead of, if we're not pulling this lever, we might be regularly eating as much as we want all the time. Instead, in pulling this lever, we might focus on consuming food within a specific and shortened eating window of the day. For some individuals, it works to consume food between breakfast and dinner. That in and of itself is a minor fast because you're fasting while you're sleeping. But as we shorten that window, we actually experience increased preventative health benefits. So you could go to lunch and dinner, or you could focus on a specific 4-hour period of the day that works for you and your schedule in order to eat during that window. So that's pulling that last lever of when to eat. Dr. Atiya's levers are incredibly helpful to simplify the complicated nature of nutrition. They're really easy to understand, they're easy to put in place in our lives, and they're really easy to tailor for our different lifestyles or schedules or preferences, which is incredibly important because nutrition is so individualized. So let's remind ourselves the 3 levers are what to eat, how much to eat, and when to eat. And if we're looking at this nutritional framework in terms of preventative health, we're going to be looking at always pulling at least one of those levers. If we go away for the holidays, or maybe we go away for a weekend, we know we've put some foods in our bodies we don't normally consume, or maybe we've overeaten in some fashion, or we've eaten at all times of day and night in order to have fun and enjoy ourselves. We might pull 2 of those levers. And if we're looking at taking a little bit more of an advanced stance on preventative health, we might actually pull all 3 levers. And this is, Dr. Atiya actually puts this a little bit more bluntly. He states, always pull 1 lever, often pull 2 levers, and sometimes or occasionally pull all 3. And what I love about this framework is that it really allows us as individuals to identify what will work, which lever works for us, which lever makes us feel more food positive and more engaged with preventing health issues, as well as what works for us at different times in our lives and what will work for our schedule. So I do want to say, before starting any diet or fasting regimen, please take the time to go to your doctor or physician and make sure that health choice is right for you and your health status at this time. Now we're going to be signing off. If you have any questions, send them, any nutrition or health questions, please send them to the local scene at PAC TV. We really would love to tackle those issues that mean the most to you. Thank you guys, and goodbye.
For more tips on nutrition, listen to Jen's free podcast at eatpositivebepositive.com. What's happening in the schools? Erica is here to tell you.
We have been fortunate to experience a particularly warm fall this year. Although, as the temperatures prepare to drop, Silver Lake's principal, Michaela Gill, would like to take this opportunity to remind families that the building opens at 7:15 a.m. She asks that parents do their best to keep the drop-off line moving during chilly mornings to help with traffic along Route 27. Student drivers should exercise caution when turning into campus. Please take your time and drive carefully. At the moment, Silver Lake is not currently able to receive incoming phone calls. To contact the school, please dial 781-291-9248. This will reach a cell phone located at their kiosk, and they can direct you from there. They are, however, still able to make outgoing calls. Kingston Police and Fire Departments are aware. They will notify staff and families when the problem has been fixed. Thank you for everyone's patience and ongoing efforts. Pembroke Public Schools has a technology help site for families and students. When going to the Home Public Schools website, there is a banner that allows you to access the help site. There you will be greeted with quick links to the most popular questions and issues to be resolved. The site is divided into 4 main groups: devices, apps, Parent Hub, and technology well-being. Everything you would need to know about Pembroke's technology is located on this site, including tutorials for basic care of devices, as well as district-approved tools. There is also no additional page for the virtual help desk. Contact support@pembrokek12.org for assistance. During the school day, someone should be able to get back to you quickly. They will also offer windows of time during the day when technology staff may be able to assist you virtually. There are also emails listed for teachers who can help you with specific issues. Elizabeth, back to you.
Thank you, Erica. 1 in 4 Americans over the age of 65 will take a fall this year that leads to injury. But there are ways to be proactive and improve your balance. And starting on November 2nd, the Duxbury Senior Center invites you to Matter of Balance. This award-winning 9-week program will guide you in ways to increase strength, activity, and balance, therefore reducing your chances of falling. This virtual course will take place on Mondays and Fridays from 10:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. For information, call Angela at 781-934-5774. The state of Vermont is home to more than 100 covered bridges, conjuring romantic thoughts of foliage, scenic drives, and spirits. Cape Cod storyteller JennyLee returns with a haunting new tale.
It's the perfect time of year for ghost stories. So today, I thought I'd tell you one very near and dear to my heart, because this ghost story is true, and it happened to me. Now, I'm called the Cape Cod storyteller, but this story doesn't take place here on the Cape. It's a bit farther north, Vermont. Precisely a little town called Stowe, where for as long as I can remember, my family has always had a house. And as long as I can remember, I've heard the locals tell a story about a little covered bridge, tucked out in the middle of the woods, right under the shadow of Hunger Mountain. Named after the creek that it crosses, Goldbrook Bridge is the perfect picture of New England loveliness during the day. But at night, the locals say that the bridge changes. At night, when the sun goes down, Goldbrook Bridge becomes Emily's Bridge, and Emily doesn't like visitors. Some say the story starts as early as 200 years ago, when a beautiful girl named Emily lived in Stowe. She was the apple of her parents' eye and the sweetheart of the town, and she had suitors lining up around the block. But Emily was picky, and she had eyes only for one man, a stranger blowing through town. And nobody knew where he came from or who his family was. But the old folk of Stowe knew trouble when they saw it, and they warned Emily to steer clear away. Her parents forbade him from ever coming in the house. But Emily was determined. She'd find ways to sneak out and go see him. And it wasn't long before Emily realized she was going to be a mother. Her sweetheart told her everything was going to be fine, that he loved her and he wanted to marry her. He told her, "Meet me at Goldbrook Bridge when the sun goes down. We'll run away together, and everything will be wonderful." Emily's hands shook as she packed her bags. She was so excited to start this wonderful new world with this man that she loved. She slipped out, blowing one last unseen kiss to her parents, and went to the bridge. She got there just as the sun went down, and she waited. And she waited. As the sun slipped down beneath the trees, she waited. As the world plunged into inky blackness, she waited. As the moon crept higher and higher up into the sky, she waited, and she waited. Until finally, just round about midnight, Emily realized he wasn't coming. The whole world seemed to drop from underneath her. She didn't know what to do. She'd been abandoned, lost, shamed. She'd bring devastation to her family if she went home with them with the news. She cast around, her eyes looking for something, any kind of answer, and they fell on a rope that was coiled around one of the bridge's rafters. The next morning, when Emily's parents discovered her missing, the whole town went out to search for her. They found her there, after a couple of hours, hanging from the bridge. They took her body down, they buried it, and Emily was mourned. And for a time, things seemed that they would go back to normal. But then, farmers started saying that strange things were happening on Goldbrook Bridge when the sun went down. People would see flashing lights above the bridge, hear something like crying, and then things got very strange. People would find the bodies of animals lying at the base of the bridge, their sides raked open as if by claws. And some farmers even began to say that their horses wouldn't cross over the bridge at night, and when they did, they were met with something terrifying. A spectral outline of a girl that looked like Emily, that would approach carriages and carts, grab onto the sides, and shake it with a demonic strength. The farmers who saw this apparition said, whoever it was, her features were always twisted in a scowl of rage. People began to whisper that Emily never left that bridge, and that she was still angry over what had happened to her. I first heard this story when I was 12. And like any stupid 12-year-old who hears that there's a ghost-haunted bridge in their town, I begged my mother to take me there at night. One day, she finally agreed, and she drove me and my friend Kristen up to the bridge just as the sun went down. It seemed like the bridge was pulling the darkness of the woods around it like a cloak. And I felt this horrible feeling in the pit of my stomach. I suppose it was just fear, but at the time it seemed like something deeper, something warning me I needed to get away. But I'd come all that way. I couldn't admit to Kristen and my mother that I was scared, but when it came time to get out of the car, I couldn't do it. Kristen and my mother both decided to get out and take a look around, but I refused. I couldn't get out of the back. They left. Took a few steps away. I grabbed a blanket from the bottom of the car and I covered myself over and I hid. I could hear their footsteps crunching over the dead leaves as they walked further and further from the car. And then it was just me, alone, in the dark and the silence. And all I could hear, except for that horrible, faint ringing that always comes with pitch silence, was the sound of my own terrified breathing. Those moments seemed to drag on and on forever. And then finally, I heard something. The crunch of footfalls over the dead leaves, coming closer to the car. And I breathed a sigh of relief. It must be Kristen and my mom. They're coming back. They're going to get in the car, we'll drive away, and I'll pretend like this never happened. Everything's going to be fine now. The footsteps stopped, right outside of my side of the car. But the door didn't open. I didn't hear Kristen's voice. Whoever it was, she was just standing there. I started to pull the blanket off to ask Kristen what was taking her so long, and then suddenly, BAM! A huge noise, a crash on the window, like somebody had taken their hands and smashed it onto the glass. I barely had time to wonder what on earth Kristen was doing when suddenly, BAM! 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 Again and again, like somebody was banging their hands onto the glass of the window, like they were trying to break it open. I started to panic. I thought, it must be Kristen. She's trying to scare me. I barely managed to screech out in a horrible, terrified voice, Stop it! Kristen, stop it! And then I heard, coming from the other side of the car, Kristen's voice. And I peeked out from under the blanket to the other door in the car where I could just see out the window Kristen and my mom, at least 30 feet in the opposite direction. There was no one else at the bridge that night. I got back under that blanket. I wasn't coming out for anyone or anything. And again, I heard it, the bang, crash, bang, like someone was trying to get in. All I could do was sit there and shake, terrified. I didn't know what this thing wanted or what it was. And then suddenly, It stopped. And everything was quiet again. The next noise I heard was Kristen opening the car door and sitting inside, and I ripped the blanket off and said, "Did you see it?" She looked at me confused. "What are you talking about?" "Whatever it was, something was crashing on the window. Didn't you see someone?" "No. We've been walking around for 15 minutes. There's no one here. It's just an old bridge." I fell silent. I couldn't think of what to say. Kristen and my mom both got back into the car. We started the engine, and we began to drive away. And I gathered what other courage I had left, and I looked behind me, out the back of the car, back at the bridge as it sank into the darkness, and I saw 1, 2, 3, very quickly, 3 bright flashing lights just over the bridge. I don't know what I saw or heard that night. I honestly don't know if I believe in ghosts. But I know this. You'll never find me on Golden Brook Bridge when the sun goes down again. When the sun goes down, Goldbrook Bridge becomes Emily's Bridge. And Emily doesn't like visitors.
Perfectly spooky. Thank you, Jenny. To see more from JennyLee, visit neststorytelling.org. And thank you for watching this episode of Local Matters. Follow and like us to keep updated on the ways that we shine a light on you. From all of us at PAC TV, have a happy and safe week. We'll see you next time.